Before the boutiques, before the TV cameras, before all the drama, Rasheeda was just a girl with a mic and a dream. Rasheeda Frost's story doesn't begin in the spotlight. It begins in the heart of Atlanta, where music pulsed through the streets and dreams felt bigger than the city itself. She wasn't born into fame or fortune. She didn't have a silver spoon in her mouth, or a big record label waiting to sign her from day one. What she had was ambition, grit, and an energy that could fill a room even before she opened her mouth to rap. Growing up, she understood struggle. She understood sacrifice. And most importantly, she understood that if she wanted something out of life, she'd have to hustle harder than everyone else around her. That mindset became the foundation of her journey. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, the Atlanta hip-hop scene was already on fire. Artists like Outkast, Ludacris, and TLC were making waves, and the city was quickly becoming the South's music capital. Rasheeda was right there, carving her lane in a male-dominated industry. A young woman with style, with lyrics, and with that unstoppable drive to be heard. She started in the girl group, D.A. Coppers, sharpening her skills, learning the ropes, and proving that she had the discipline it took to survive in the music business. But it wasn't enough for her to just blend in with a group. She wanted to stand on her own 2 feet. She wanted her name to be remembered, so she took a risk that many wouldn't. She went solo. And when Rasheeda Frost stepped into that spotlight alone, people paid attention. She had a voice that wasn't afraid to tell the truth, flows that were catchy but sharp, and a confidence that made people look twice. Her debut solo project, Dirty South, was more than just an album, it was a statement. She was claiming her place in hip-hop, showing the world that Atlanta had yet another star ready to rise. Songs like Do It became underground favorites, and Rasheeda started building her own fanbase brick by brick. But here's the thing about chasing dreams. The road is never smooth. The music industry is cutthroat, especially for women, and even more so for women who are trying to be both respected rappers and style icons. Labels didn't always know how to market her. The radio didn't always give her spins. Critics didn't always give her the respect she deserved. But Rasheeda had something many artists lacked: consistency. She kept creating. She kept putting out mixtapes, singles, and features. She wasn't waiting for validation. She was building her catalog. And little by little, the fans started to notice that this wasn't just a passing phase. Rasheeda was serious about her craft. What people admired most was her authenticity. She wasn't trying to copy anyone else's style. She wasn't trying to chase every trend. She was bringing her own flavor to the table. Southern, stylish, unapologetic. When people saw Rasheeda, they saw a woman who wasn't afraid to represent where she came from. She leaned into her identity, and that made her relatable. She didn't pretend life was perfect, and she didn't shy away from the grind. Her lyrics often reflected her real-life hustle, and fans connected with that energy. But as her music career was moving, Rasheeda's personal life was also taking shape. She found love in Kirk Frost, who became both her partner in life and her manager in business. It wasn't always an easy partnership, but in those early years, they were building something together, an empire that wasn't just about music but about longevity. Kirk believed in Rasheeda's vision, and Rasheeda believed in herself. Together, they worked to keep her music alive while also planning for the bigger picture. This was when Rasheeda's entrepreneurial side started to shine. She wasn't the type of artist to put all her eggs in one basket. She knew music could be fleeting, but business could last forever. While other artists were spending every check, Rasheeda was investing. She was thinking ahead, imagining what her brand could become outside of rap. But even while she dreamed of boutiques and beauty lines, her music still came first. She dropped projects like Ga Peach and Certified Hot Chick, projects that highlighted not only her lyrical ability but also her evolution as an artist and as a woman. Each release showed growth, and each release proved that Rasheeda was in this for the long haul. Still, success didn't come overnight. There were setbacks, disappointments, and plenty of moments where most people would have given up. But Rasheeda kept going. And that resilience, that unwillingness to quit, became part of her brand. Fans respected her hustle, even if the mainstream industry didn't always give her the flowers she deserved. The turning point came when Rasheeda joined Love Hip Hop Atlanta. At first, people weren't sure what to expect. Reality TV was messy, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. But Rasheeda stepped onto that platform and made it work for her. Instead of just being another cast member, she turned herself into a household name. Viewers fell in love with her calm strength, her ability to stand up for herself without always screaming, and her undeniable style. She became one of the faces of the franchise. Not because she was the loudest or the wildest, but because she was authentic. Suddenly, people who had never even heard her music were becoming Rasheeda fans. They admired the way she handled herself, the way she balanced family, career, and business. And while the cameras often focused on her marriage struggles with Kirk, fans saw more than just the drama. They saw a woman who refused to be broken, a woman who turned pain into power. That's why Rasheeda stood out. She wasn't just playing a role on TV, she was living her truth, flaws and all, and letting millions of viewers watch her navigate it. From the outside, it might have looked like she was just another reality star, but behind the scenes, Rasheeda was plotting her next move. She used the exposure of love and hip-hop to push her businesses forward. She launched Pressed, her boutique brand, and it quickly became one of the hottest fashion spots in Atlanta. Fans lined up not just for the clothes, but for the chance to connect with Rasheeda herself. She wasn't just selling fashion, she was selling empowerment. She was showing women that they could be stylish, independent, and unapologetically themselves. But we'll get deeper into the business mogul Rasheeda later. For now, let's go back to the essence of what made her glow up possible: her resilience. Every time life threw a curveball, whether it was industry rejection, marriage issues, or public scrutiny, she found a way to bounce back stronger. And that's where the motivation lies in her story. Rasheeda's journey proves that success isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about showing up, even when the odds are stacked against you. The early days of her career weren't filled with glitz and glam. They were filled with long nights in the studio, countless no's from executives, and the pressure of trying to prove herself in a world that wasn't always welcoming. But Rasheeda took all of that and turned it into fuel. She wasn't just chasing fame, she was building a foundation. And that foundation is exactly why, decades later, she's still standing tall, while many others have faded away. If there's one word that describes Rasheeda's early glow-up, it's hustle. She hustled in the music, hustled in business, and hustled in life. She embodied what it means to be self-made, to take control of your narrative even when people try to write you off. And it's that spirit that would eventually carry her from being just a rapper to becoming a boss lady in every sense of the word. Her story is proof that the journey matters just as much as the destination, because without those years of grinding, without the struggle, without the heartbreak, there would be no glow-up to celebrate. Rasheeda's glow didn't happen overnight. It was built step by step, through blood, sweat, tears, and an unshakable belief in herself. And this was only the beginning. By the time Rasheeda became a recognizable face on Love and Hip Hop, her journey had already been long, layered, and full of lessons that would prepare her for everything ahead. The cameras might have introduced her to a bigger audience, but the truth is, Rasheeda had been building her foundation long before reality TV. And what made her stand out on screen wasn't just her beauty or her fashion sense, it was her energy, her quiet strength, and her ability to balance authenticity with ambition. People could feel that she was different. She wasn't just there to argue and create chaos for ratings. She was there to tell her story, her way, and to let the world see who she really was. But let's be honest, reality TV thrives on drama, and in Rasheeda's case, that drama often came through her relationship with Kirk. The world watched as their marriage struggles played out for everyone to see: Kirk's questionable choices, the betrayals, the heartbreak. For most women, that kind of spotlight on such personal pain would have been unbearable. Many would have walked away from the cameras, closed the door, and kept their lives private. But Rasheeda did something powerful. She turned that pain into resilience, and she let fans see her process it in real time. This was the moment where fans truly connected with her on a deeper level. She wasn't some untouchable celebrity with a perfect life. She was a woman going through real struggles. And yet, she carried herself with grace. Even in moments where her voice trembled, where tears filled her eyes, there was a quiet power in the way she handled herself. Viewers saw their own struggles in her. They saw their own heartbreaks, mirrored in her storyline. And because of that, Rasheeda went from being just another reality star to being a role model for resilience. What people didn't always see, though, was the work happening behind the scenes. Rasheeda wasn't just sitting back letting life happen to her, she was planning. She was using the exposure from Love and Hip Hop to position herself as more than just a cast member. She wanted to build something that could stand even if the cameras turned off tomorrow. That's where the vision of Pressed really came alive. For Rasheeda, fashion wasn't just about clothes. It was about expression. It was about empowerment. And it was about creating a brand that reflected her personality: bold, stylish, and unapologetic. When she opened her boutique in Atlanta, it wasn't just another business. It was a declaration that she was more than music, more than TV, more than the drama that people loved to gossip about. She was a businesswoman, a boss, and she was ready to step into her own lane. Prest quickly became more than just a boutique. It became a destination. Fans of the show lined up outside the store just for the chance to see Rasheeda in person, to take a picture, to say hello. And while they came for the clothes, what they left with was inspiration. They saw a woman who had taken control of her narrative, who had built something with her own name on it, and who wasn't afraid to stand tall in an industry that tried to box her in. But success never comes without challenges. Running a business is tough, and running one in the spotlight is even tougher. Every decision, every outfit, every price tag was scrutinized not just by customers but by the public. And still, Rasheeda kept her focus. She knew that this wasn't just about making money, it was about leaving a legacy. She wanted to show other women, especially young black women watching her, that they could be more than what people expected them to be. They could be artists, mothers, entrepreneurs, and leaders all at the same time. Meanwhile, on Love and Hip Hop, Rasheeda's storyline continued to evolve. Fans debated her choices, criticized her decisions, and praised her strength. Through it all, Rasheeda remained herself. She didn't lash out for the sake of ratings. She didn't create fake drama to stay relevant. She let her life unfold naturally, and that authenticity kept people rooting for her, even when they didn't agree with every decision she made. In fact, that's what made her relatable, because in real life, who always makes the perfect choice? No one. And Rasheeda's willingness to be imperfect in front of millions made her real. As her boutique grew, so did her influence. She became not just a TV personality or a rapper but a brand. Her fashion sense was admired, her business acumen was respected, and her journey was becoming an inspiration far beyond the confines of the show. People started looking at Rasheeda as more than just Kirk's wife or that rapper from Atlanta. They saw her as a boss, a mogul in the making, someone who was building an empire piece by piece. And what's important to note is that Rasheeda did all of this while still being a mother, a wife, and a woman navigating life in the spotlight. She balanced it all, even when the weight of it seemed impossible. That balancing act is what makes her glow up so powerful, because it wasn't just about her career, it was about her life, her family, her survival, and her growth as a woman. Every setback she faced, whether in music, marriage, or business, became a stepping stone. Every time she was underestimated, she used it as motivation. Every time people doubted her, she proved them wrong by continuing to rise. That's the heart of Rasheeda's glow up, the ability to take pain and turn it into purpose, to take doubt and turn it into drive. The fans who've been with her since the beginning understand this best. They've watched her go from a young rapper with big dreams to a reality star with the courage to share her truth, to a businesswoman who inspires countless others. They've seen the transformation firsthand, and that's why Rasheeda holds such a special place in Love and Hip Hop history. She's not just entertainment, she's inspiration. And the glow up wasn't over. If part 1 of her story was about the grind, part 2 was about resilience. But the story ahead would show even more layers. The expansion of her businesses, the way she built her family brand, and how she continued to evolve in an industry that often eats people alive. Rasheeda wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, and she was just getting started. As the seasons of Love and Hip Hop rolled on, something became very clear. Rasheeda was not going to be just another reality TV star fading into the background once the cameras stopped rolling. Instead, she was transforming into a figure people respected on multiple levels. She wasn't just giving viewers drama, she was giving them a masterclass in resilience and reinvention. And that reinvention was happening right in front of their eyes. For every tear, there was a lesson. For every setback, there was a comeback. And fans were watching closely, taking notes from her journey. Seeing her as more than entertainment, they were seeing her as an example of how to rise above. The growth of her boutique, Prest played a huge role in that. It wasn't just about racks of clothes. The boutique became a symbol of independence, ambition, and self-made success. People didn't just walk into Prest to shop. They walked in to feel the energy of Rasheeda's story. They wanted to connect with the woman they'd seen cry on television, the woman they'd seen stand her ground against betrayal, and the woman they'd seen keep her head high while others tried to drag her down. Prest became more than a store, it became an experience. Women left with bags of clothes, yes, but they also left with motivation. They left feeling like if Rasheeda could build this empire from scratch, then they could chase their own dreams too. And Rasheeda didn't stop with just one store. She expanded, she dreamed bigger, she opened multiple locations, showing that her success wasn't a fluke, it was the result of vision, discipline, and fearless risk-taking. She took the money she earned, reinvested it, and multiplied it. That's the definition of a boss lady. And that's why people respected her glow-up so much. She wasn't just talking about being successful, she was living it, brick by brick, boutique by boutique. Of course, with visibility comes criticism. There were always people ready to downplay her success, to say it was only possible because of the show, or because of her husband, or because of the drama. But what critics didn't understand was that success doesn't sustain itself on hype alone. You can get people into the store with fame, but you keep them coming back with quality, with consistency, with vision. And that's what Rasheeda had. She wasn't chasing clout, she was chasing longevity. While her businesses grew, her personal journey continued to unfold on screen. The marriage struggles with Kirk didn't magically disappear. In fact, they became some of the most talked about storylines in reality TV history. Kirk's mistakes were public, his betrayals undeniable, and Rasheeda's decision to stay was met with heavy criticism. Fans debated endlessly. Should she leave him? Should she forgive him? Why was she putting herself through this? But here's what people missed in their analysis. Rasheeda wasn't living her life for anyone else's approval. She was making her own decisions, on her own terms. And that's the essence of her strength. When the world told her to do one thing, she listened to her own heart. And whether people agreed with her or not, she never wavered from being true to herself. That kind of self-assurance is rare. It showed that her glow-up wasn't about pleasing everyone, it was about owning her story, even the parts that weren't perfect. And that's exactly what inspired her fans the most. Because how many of us live lives that are perfectly neat, free of mistakes or pain? None of us. Rasheeda showed that you could be flawed and still be powerful, broken and still be beautiful, tested and still triumphant. There were nights where the cameras turned off, and Rasheeda still had to face the quiet moments of doubt. There were mornings where she had to get up, get dressed, and head into her boutique, even when the weight of betrayal was still sitting heavy on her shoulders. But she kept showing up, and that is why her glow-up stands out. It wasn't about avoiding the storm, it was about dancing in the rain until the sun came back out. Her children also became part of her journey. A reminder that Rasheeda wasn't just living for herself, she was living for her family, for her sons who were watching her example, and for the legacy she was determined to leave behind. She wanted them to see what it looked like to build something from the ground up. She wanted them to know that no matter what the world threw at you, you had the power to rise above it. And through her actions, she was showing them exactly that. The glow-up also extended into how people perceived her outside of the show. Interviews, appearances, and fan events revealed a Rasheeda who was approachable, humble, and grateful. She never acted too big for her community. She stayed grounded, often talking about her roots, her faith, and her belief in hard work. That humility, paired with her success, made her even more beloved. Because people respect someone who can sit on top of success and still remember where they came from. Rasheeda never lost that connection. And let's not forget her influence as a style icon. Fans admired her outfits on the show, her boutique looks, her Instagram posts, all of it. She embodied the kind of effortless glam that made people want to copy her. She had a way of mixing street style with elegance, business casual with bold statements, always creating looks that turned heads but still felt authentic to her. Her fashion sense wasn't about chasing every trend, it was about setting them. And that's what made Priest so successful. Rasheeda's personal brand of style became the store's identity. At this stage of her glow-up, Rasheeda was teaching the world something important. Growth is not a straight line. There are ups and downs. There are wins and losses. There are moments when you shine and moments when you stumble. But the glow comes from never stopping, never letting life's hardships dim your light. She showed that you don't need to erase your struggles to be successful. You can wear them as proof of how far you've come. Every time someone walked into Prest, watched her on TV, or followed her online, they weren't just seeing Rasheeda the celebrity, they were seeing Rasheeda the survivor. They were seeing a woman who took everything life threw at her and built a crown out of it. That's why her glow-up story resonates. Because it isn't about perfection, it's about power. And as the seasons rolled on and her businesses expanded, Rasheeda proved again and again that she was more than anyone expected her to be. She was more than the Dirty South rapper, more than Kirk's wife, more than a reality star. She was a brand, a force, a boss. And the best part, she wasn't finished yet. There was more building, more growing, and more glowing still to come. By the time Rasheeda had cemented her status as both a reality TV star and a boutique owner, something bigger was happening behind the scenes, her transformation into a cultural figure. She wasn't just influencing the people who tuned into Love and Hip Hop every Monday night. She was becoming a symbol for women who wanted to build, women who wanted to glow, and women who wanted to survive every challenge life threw at them. And that glow didn't come from pretending life was easy. It came from showing that even when it was hard, you could still stand tall. The boutique pressed became her signature achievement, but Rasheeda wasn't stopping there. She had the type of ambition that didn't allow her to settle. Every win only fueled her to chase the next one. She expanded the boutique to Houston, proving her brand could thrive outside Atlanta. That was a huge moment because it showed that Rasheeda wasn't just running a local store that succeeded because of her reality TV fame. She was building a scalable brand, one that could stand in other markets, one that could hold its own in an industry where most celebrity ventures come and go. While some reality stars launched products that fizzled out, Rasheeda was creating something lasting. And what made her different was the hands-on approach. She wasn't just slapping her name on things. She was in the store. She was connecting with fans. She was helping style customers, taking pictures, showing them that she cared. That personal touch built loyalty. When people shopped at Pressed, they didn't feel like they were supporting just another business. They felt like they were part of Rasheeda's journey. They felt invested in her story. And that emotional connection kept them coming back again and again. But here's the real glow. Rasheeda was showing that women could redefine themselves at any point in life. She wasn't 18 when she opened Pressed. She wasn't brand new to the game. She had lived, loved, hurt, failed, succeeded, and still had the courage to reinvent herself. And that's the type of story that resonates deeply, especially with women watching her on TV and online. She was saying, without even speaking the words, it's never too late to build. It's never too late to glow. It's never too late to win. At the same time, Rasheeda's music was still part of her DNA. Even though fashion and television began to dominate her narrative, she never completely abandoned the rap game. She performed, she dropped tracks, and she reminded people that her artistry was still alive. But what she did brilliantly was expand beyond the box of being just a rapper. She showed the world that you could evolve, that you could have multiple chapters to your story, that you didn't have to stay in one lane forever. That lesson was part of her glow up too, because sometimes success isn't about doing one thing perfectly. It's about doing many things boldly. And let's talk about family, because that was always at the center of her journey. No matter how many businesses she built or how many cameras were in her face, Rasheeda was a mother first. She poured into her kids, showing them by example what hard work looked like. She didn't just tell them to dream big. She lived it in front of them every single day. And even with the ups and downs of her marriage, she demonstrated resilience, forgiveness, and the complexities of love. Whether fans agreed with her decisions or not, they couldn't deny her strength. It takes courage to walk away, but it takes just as much courage to stay and rebuild. Rasheeda showed the world both sides. And that's why her story was never one-dimensional. Her marriage to Kirk became one of the most debated relationships in reality TV history. People had strong opinions. Some said she should have left years ago. Others said they respected her loyalty. But the truth is, Rasheeda didn't live for those opinions. She lived for herself and her family. And while the debates continued, Rasheeda kept moving forward. She didn't let gossip define her. She didn't let public opinion break her. Instead, she used the spotlight to strengthen her brand and grow her empire. And in doing so, she showed that even in chaos, you can still create something beautiful. Another layer to Rasheeda's glow-up was her ability to stay relevant. Reality TV can be a revolving door. One season you're the fan favorite, and the next you're forgotten. But Rasheeda kept people talking. She didn't rely on screaming matches or constant fights to hold attention. Her storyline alone, her resilience, her business growth, her fashion, all of it made her relevant. People wanted to see what she was doing next, how she was expanding, how she was glowing. That's a rare gift, and Rasheeda mastered it. As the years went on, Rasheeda's influence grew outside of the show. Social media became a powerful tool in her journey. She used Instagram not just to post outfits, but to build her brand identity. Every post was intentional. Every look reinforced her image as a boss lady. Fans began to see her not only as a cast member but as a lifestyle icon. They wanted the clothes she wore, the confidence she exuded, the balance she seemed to maintain. She wasn't just sharing selfies, she was curating a brand. And what's truly inspiring is that she made it all look effortless, even when it wasn't. Because behind every polished Instagram post was a woman who had worked through pain, who had built from nothing, who had faced betrayal and criticism, and who still chose to shine. That's the core of her glow-up. It wasn't about perfection, it was about persistence. When fans look at Rasheeda today, they don't just see a rapper. They don't just see a reality TV star. They don't just see a boutique owner. They see a woman who embodies growth. They see a journey that says, you can fall and rise again. You can be hurt and still heal. You can be underestimated and still win. That's why her glow up matters so much. Because it's more than her story, it's a reflection of so many women's stories. The more Rasheeda glowed, the more she became an example of how to balance vulnerability and strength. She cried on camera, but she also built empires off camera. She faced criticism, but she also gained respect. She stumbled in love, but she soared in business. And all of that combined made her one of the most multifaceted women to ever come out of the Love and Hip Hop franchise. Her glow up was not a straight line. It zigged and zagged. It rose and dipped. But through it all, Rasheeda never dimmed her light. And if you look at her story closely, you'll see the pattern. Pain, persistence, progress, power. That's the cycle she lived through. And each cycle made her stronger, brighter, and more unstoppable. And the glow was still spreading. She wasn't finished building. She wasn't finished inspiring. She was only moving into the next phase of her journey, one that would solidify her as not just a boss, but a blueprint for how to turn struggle into strength, and strength into legacy. By now, Rasheeda's glow-up was undeniable. She had turned what many thought would be just a short-lived moment of fame into a lasting empire that stretched far beyond television. And what made it even more powerful was how she carried herself through every storm. She didn't just survive the turbulence, she found a way to rise higher because of it. The world had seen her cry, seen her forgive, seen her build, seen her hustle, and now they were seeing her thrive in ways that nobody could have predicted. When she first appeared on their TV screens, her businesses had taken off. Her influence was cemented. But Rasheeda wasn't slowing down. She kept reminding herself and everyone watching that growth never stops. You don't just glow up once, you keep glowing, you keep leveling up, you keep reinventing yourself. That was the lesson she lived by. And it was the lesson that inspired countless fans to chase their own paths. Every time she walked into press, it wasn't just about checking on sales. It was about connecting with her supporters, reminding them that she wasn't untouchable, that she was a woman just like them, a woman who had once struggled, hustled, and fought her way into stability. She never forgot that personal connection, and that's what made her glow up so genuine. Fans weren't just looking at a celebrity, they were looking at someone they felt they knew. Someone who carried pieces of their own story inside hers. As time passed, Rasheeda began to embody what it truly meant to be a mogul. She wasn't just selling clothes. She was selling confidence, empowerment, and possibility. She was telling women that they could start over, that they could build after heartbreak, that they could glow even when people counted them out. That kind of message goes beyond fashion or television, it hits the soul. And Rasheeda knew it. That's why she leaned into that role, not just as a businesswoman, but as an unspoken mentor to the women who followed her. Her story showed them that you didn't need to come from wealth to create wealth. You didn't need to be perfect to be powerful. You didn't need to have a flawless past to create a beautiful future. You just needed grit, determination, and a belief that you could turn pain into progress. And if anyone needed proof, Rasheeda was the living example. Meanwhile, the spotlight of Love and Hip Hop never fully dimmed. Fans continued to tune in, not just for the drama, but to see how Rasheeda was navigating life. They watched her marriage evolve. They saw her children grow up. They witnessed her balancing act of being a mother, wife, entrepreneur, and public figure. It wasn't always glamorous. Sometimes it was messy, but it was real. And that's what kept people invested. Because Rasheeda wasn't trying to sell them a perfect fantasy. She was showing them reality and how you could still shine even in the middle of it. One of the most powerful aspects of her glow-up was the way she turned scrutiny into strength. Every time critics dragged her name, every time fans debated her choices, every time tabloids spun her story, Rasheeda turned the noise into fuel. Instead of letting it break her, she used it to prove herself again and again. She understood that public life comes with opinions, but what mattered most was her own vision, her own goals, her own truth. And by focusing on that, she showed others how to stand tall, even when the world tries to pull you down. Another important chapter of her journey was how she embraced aging with confidence. In an industry that often pressures women to stay young forever, Rasheeda flipped the narrative. She showed that you could be in your 40s and still thriving, still glowing, still setting trends. She became living proof that beauty doesn't fade with age, it evolves. Her style, her presence, her confidence all deepened as she matured, and that made her glow even brighter. Fans admired the way she carried herself, not pretending to be a teenager but embracing her womanhood with pride. She gave women permission to glow at every stage of life at the same time. Rasheeda became a cultural staple within the Love and Hip Hop franchise. She wasn't just another cast member anymore, she was one of the pillars of the show. Someone whose storyline had shaped the entire franchise. And yet, she carried that position with humility. She didn't use her status to belittle others. She used it to inspire, to show that growth was possible no matter where you started. That's what made her different. And that's what made her glow up shine so authentically. The thing about Rasheeda's journey is that it's not about a single achievement. It's about the accumulation of everything she's done: music, television, business, family, resilience, and how it all weaves together into one powerful narrative. Each chapter has its own lesson, its own pain, its own triumph. But together, they create the story of a woman who refused to give up, refused to be boxed in, refused to let anyone else write her ending. And maybe that's the most motivational part of her glow up. She never let circumstances define her. She defined herself. Whether it was as a rapper breaking into a tough industry, a wife working through public betrayal, a businesswoman building an empire, or a mother raising her kids, Rasheeda set her own standard. She didn't wait for approval. She didn't wait for permission. She simply moved forward, and by doing so, she showed others how to do the same. Her glow up was never about becoming flawless. It was about becoming fearless. Fearless enough to fail in front of millions. Fearless enough to share her truth. Fearless enough to keep trying when others might have quit. And fearless enough to reinvent herself again and again until she became the boss lady that people admire today. And still, her journey wasn't over, because the truth about glowing up is that it's not a destination. It's a lifestyle, a continuous climb, a daily choice to keep shining even when the world tries to dim your light. Rasheeda embodied that truth every single day. And for fans watching, that's what made her story unforgettable. Rasheeda's journey was never just about one moment of success, it was about decades of persistence, resilience, and reinvention. By the time she reached the stage she's at now, her glow-up had become the stuff of inspiration, not just for fans of love and hip-hop, not just for Atlanta, but for anyone who understood the weight of struggle and the beauty of rising above it. She had proven, again and again, that she was more than labels, more than criticism, more than the mistakes that tried to define her. She was proof that no matter where you start, you can build, you can grow, and you can glow into something greater than anyone imagined. As the years went on, Rasheeda leaned even deeper into her role as a boss. Pressed became a staple name, not just because of its clothes, but because of the story attached to it. Fans and customers weren't just shopping, they were buying into a piece of Rasheeda's legacy. They wanted to carry her strength with them, wear her glow, and feel the empowerment that came with supporting someone who built everything with her own two hands. That kind of connection is rare in business, but Rasheeda created it through authenticity. She showed up, she stayed consistent, and she kept her focus on serving her people. Beyond fashion, her influence extended into lifestyle. Women looked at her and saw possibility. They saw someone who had been betrayed but refused to stay broken. They saw someone who had faced rejection but turned it into redirection. They saw someone who balanced motherhood, marriage, career, and fame with a grace that was uniquely her own. That's why Rasheeda's glow-up story resonates so deeply, because it isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. Even her marriage, as controversial as it was, became a part of her lesson. Whether people agreed with her decisions or not, they couldn't deny her strength. She showed that women have the right to choose their own paths, even when the world is screaming at them to do something else. She showed that love is complicated, forgiveness is personal, and growth is never a straight line. And through it all, she stayed true to herself. That self-assurance is part of what made her glow so powerful. She wasn't living for approval, she was living her truth. The Rasheeda we see today is a woman who wears her scars like jewels. Every setback only made her more radiant. Every challenge only sharpened her resilience. Every stumble only made her stride stronger. That's what makes her glow up so authentic, because it was earned through real pain, real struggle, and real triumph. Nothing was handed to her. She fought for it, she worked for it, and she built it piece by piece until she stood tall as the boss lady she always dreamed of becoming. Fans now look at her and see more than the rapper from the Dirty South days, more than the reality TV star, more than the boutique owner. They see a blueprint. They see a guide for how to transform your life when the odds are stacked against you. They see that no matter how many times people count you out, you can always rise again. Rasheeda's glow up isn't just her story, it's a mirror for anyone who has ever been doubted, dismissed, or disrespected and still found a way to win. And she's not finished. The glow up continues. Every year, every season, Every new venture adds another layer to her journey. She keeps finding ways to expand, to inspire, to evolve, because that's the truth of a glow up. It doesn't stop at one peak. It keeps climbing, keeps reaching, keeps shining brighter with time. Rasheeda embodies that truth. She is proof that success is not final, failure is not fatal, and growth never ends. So when people talk about Rasheeda Frost's glow up, they're not just talking about a fashion line, or a storyline, or a few hit records. They're talking about the essence of transformation. They're talking about a woman who refused to settle, who refused to quit, who refused to let life's storms define her. They're talking about a woman who turned pain into power, criticism into fuel, and obstacles into opportunities. They're talking about a woman who built herself into exactly what she always wanted to be, a boss lady in every sense of the word. Her glow up is a reminder to everyone watching that no matter where you are right now, no matter what you've been through, no matter how many times life has knocked you down, you can rise, you can rebuild, you can reinvent, and you can glow into the version of yourself that you've always dreamed of becoming. That's the legacy of Rasheeda Frost. Not just her music, not just her boutiques, not just her TV fame, but the way she inspires people to believe in their own glow-up stories. And that's why, decades from now, when people look back at love and hip-hop history, when they talk about the icons who left their mark, Rasheeda's name will always shine, because she wasn't just a part of the culture, she helped define it. She didn't just survive the chaos, she thrived through it. And she didn't just glow up for herself, she showed millions of others how to glow too. Her journey is still being written, but one thing is clear. Rasheeda Frost is living proof that a glow-up isn't about changing who you are, it's about becoming who you were always meant to be. So now you've seen the journey. You've watched how Rasheeda Frost went from chasing her rap dreams in Atlanta, to becoming one of the most respected women in the love and hip-hop franchise, to building a fashion empire with Prest that turned her name into a brand. You've seen the highs, the lows, the heartbreak, the hustle, and the transformation that made her story one of the most powerful glow-ups in reality TV history. But here's the real question: what does Rasheeda's glow-up mean to you? Because let's be real, watching Rasheeda shine isn't just entertainment, it's motivation. It's a reminder that no matter what's happening in your own life, you can rebuild, you can reinvent, you can glow up, too. Rasheeda showed us that glow-ups don't come from perfection, they come from persistence. They come from getting up every single time life knocks you down. And if she can do it, why not you? If you've ever felt underestimated, if you've ever been told you weren't good enough, if you've ever been doubted or dismissed, Rasheeda's story should light a fire inside you. Because she turned doubt into fuel, she turned pain into power, and she turned every closed door into a chance to create her own lane. That's not just reality TV, that's reality, that's life, and that's what makes her glow up so inspiring. Now here's where you come in. If Rasheeda's journey moved you, if her story reminded you that you have your own glow-up waiting for you, then don't let this be the end. Join the family right here on this channel. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and be part of a community that celebrates strength, resilience, and the real stories behind the stars we love. Because here, we don't just spill tea, we celebrate transformation. We highlight the lessons, the moments, the journeys that remind us all to keep glowing. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what's your favorite Rasheeda moment. Was it her music era, her iconic clapbacks on Love and Hip Hop, or the way she turned her boutique into a boss lady empire? Let's start a conversation, because your voice matters here. This isn't just my channel, it's ours. It's a place for Rasheeda fans, for Love and Hip Hop fans, for anyone who believes in the power of a glow up. And don't forget, when you share this video, you're not just spreading celebrity news, you're spreading motivation. Somebody out there needs to hear this story. Somebody out there needs to be reminded that they can glow too. So hit that share button, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and let's keep Rasheeda's glow inspiring as many people as possible. Because here's the truth, Rasheeda's journey isn't over, and neither is yours. She keeps glowing, and so can you. The hustle doesn't stop, the growth doesn't stop, the shine doesn't stop. And every time you watch her rise, remember you've got the same power inside you. You just have to use it, so don't just watch, be part of it. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Join the movement, because this channel is where we celebrate not just the drama, but the determination. Not just the headlines, but the hard work. Not just the fall, but the rise. Rasheeda Frost is proof that glow-ups are real. And if you believe in your own glow, if you're ready to see more stories like this, if you're ready to be part of a community that celebrates every win, big or small, then you're in the right place. This is your moment to join us, so go ahead, subscribe now, comment your thoughts, like this video if Rasheeda's journey inspired you, and stay tuned, because the glow doesn't end here. This is just the beginning, and trust me, the next chapter is going to shine even brighter. It's going to shine even brighter.